This is the Dzogchen Someday Lama Jigme Gyatso of the Buddha Joy Meditation School. Come, let us explore why competition makes you miserable. Explained. Followed by a group meditation. Let us begin with a tale of two reward systems. It would seem, according to some biology professionals, that our genes act almost like a parasite, controlling our impulses and behaviors, regardless of what we prefer. We see this quite profoundly in junior high, when formerly sweet children hit puberty and overnight seemingly are transformed into self-abusing sex fiends. There are many benefits to be had from our dopamine-oriented reward system. Primarily, it is about survival of the species, not of the person, not of your relationships, not of your friendships, but of the species. It rewards for us doing whatever it takes to finding water when we're thirsty, and food when we're hungry, and shade when we're hot, and warmth when we're cold. It will make sure that we find shelter. It will stop at nothing to make sure we have multiple sexual partners over our lifespan. For procreation is the litmus test of evolution. Let us take a deeper look at this dopamine-oriented reward system. It is not, when we are out of breath from exertion or exercise or lovemaking, a deep breath can feel amazingly pleasurable. But we need more than one breath. Consequently, although we might receive pleasure from breathing, we never receive satisfaction. We always want more breathing, and that's useful because, it keeps us alive. The same thing could be said about drinking water when we're thirsty. We could, after a strenuous hike, a tall glass of water can feel like ambrosia. But we have evolved to never be satisfied with that one glass of water. And that's useful because drinking multiple glasses of water every single day keeps us alive. And the only way we will continue to do that is if water never permanently satisfies. The same could be said for food, for urination, for defecation, for finding shelter, for having sex. Imagine, if you will, the best sexual experience of your life. After post-climax clarity, you'll want more. That's not a flaw of you. It's not because you're some degenerate, hedonistic hedonist. It's just because we're wired. that as for the species, well-being, procreation is required. There's a reason why, on some level, well, whether we admit it or not, we crave unsafe sex, because the little puppet masters of our genes want procreation. They value procreation more than a healthy relationship or a healthy friendship or even healthy employment. They want to spread their genetic matter. And of course, by using the phrase want, I'm using an anthropomorphism. You get the basic idea. That's how we have evolved. And so all these things are designed or have evolved to keep us wanting more, so that as a species we'll continue to survive and spread. And if you are as geeky as me and you've enjoyed the movie The Matrix, then you are not unfamiliar with the comparison of the spreading of humanity with the spreading of a cancer. So at the very least, the price of our dopamine system is gross dissatisfaction, but it's greater than that, because we are wired on a visceral level to value the pleasures of procreation, eating, and drinking above anything else. It is not unheard of in the history of human affairs for people to value pleasure above their children, above their marriage, above their friendships. How many friendships have been destroyed in the name of romance? No less health, no less employment. So I'm not telling you that our dopamine system is going to make junkies of us one and all, but I'm going to say that it is not evolved to ensure peace. It is not evolved to ensure happiness. It's evolved to ensure permanent dissatisfaction, permanent craving, and permanent longing, because that serves the species on a genetic level. Consider, if you will, the lions of the savannah of the Serengeti. When it's no fun being a male lion, because eventually your reign over the pride is successfully challenged, and old and weak, you will most likely be eaten alive by hyenas, which is a horrible end. And you will know that all your cubs will be murdered by your replacement, which will trigger a global estrus within the pride and a new batch of cubs to come on down the biological conveyor belt, as it were. This is dopamine in action, doing what it has evolved to do. But if you're here, if you are hanging out with me, you want more than safety. You want more than pleasure. Pleasure is fun, but you want something in addition to pleasure. You also want peace. You want happiness. And you want fulfillment. As I mentioned at the onset, this is a tale of two reward systems. And the latter rewards cooperation with feelings of fulfillment, whether it be cooperating with one's spouse, cooperating to ensure the well-being of one's children, cooperating with your friends, your neighbors, your family members, your co-workers, your fellow hobbyists and enthusiasts. This deep satisfaction is brought to us by our oxytocin reward system. So how do we navigate these waters? How do we have as fulfilling a life as possible. Well, we have to understand that when we live from our amygdala, the seat of anxiety and aggression, our life will be described as being rigid, fearful, superstitious, controlling, elitist, cryptic, competitive, and cruel. There is no peace. There is no fulfillment. So, what is the key to our liberation from the tyranny of this organelle, so useful for survival, but so destructive for our overarching well-being or overarching well-being? So in a true life and death situation, the amygdala could keep us alive, but we're not being chased by a bear every hour, every minute of every day. However, one of the prices we pay for capitalism and its many coercive structures is that we live in anxiety and aggression every day, thus pulling us in a very unfulfilling and unsustainable direction. How do we flip this on its head? Fortunately, the amygdala is not the only organelle of our central nervous system. Consider, if you will, our spinal cord. Its fancy name, or its fancy description would be the nexus of our autonomic nervous system. It has two parts, the middle bit and the end bits. The middle bit, or sympathetic nervous system, we access during each inhalation. And the end bits, known as the parasympathetic nervous system, we access during each exhalation. When we are in the thrall of the anxiety and aggression of our amygdala, we cannot help but actively compete against our own autonomic nervous system. However, that is not the only way to live. There is a way of living which helps us to passively cooperate with both our sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous systems. Every time we feel our chest swell with breath, we could silently and mentally recite the verb watch, which helps us to watch mind's antics, or in other words, practice mindfulness. Every time we feel our chest subtly sink as gently we exhale, we can silently and mentally recite the verb rest, which helps us to rest in the aspect of mind that could feel fleetingly non-graspable, or in other words, meditate. This is the key to passive cooperation with both the middle bit and the end bits of our autonomic nervous system. Doing this will calm the anxiety and aggression of our amygdala. Watching and resting in harmony with our inhalations and our exhalations will help us to experience the empathy of our anterior cingulate gyrus. Watching and resting will help us to feel peace. The more we practice mindfulness and meditation in harmony with our inhalation and our exhalation, the more we cannot help but the more our choices and our utterances and our deeds cannot help but flow not from calculated contrivance nor from wild scatteredness, but instead from love's deeply centered spontaneity. This is the key to accessing genius levels of creativity and intuition, and even using our abilities to focus and analyze in their most sustainable way. It is this effortless effort, this wu wei, this going with the flow, that will help, that will guide us upon the path of greatest fulfillment. You have taken your first step into a much larger world. If you feel that I have earned it, you could give this live stream a thumbs up. You could even help support this channel. For Meditate Like a Jedi is made possible thanks to the generosity of viewers just like you. For the remainder of this early morning's live stream, let us sit and breathe and watch and rest. The free fall of meditation can trigger our controlling and rigid tendencies. It could therefore be beneficial for us to practice a variation of Bengali crease counting. Let us touch the tip of our left thumb to the lowest set of creases on its little finger, thus keeping track of our first set of 16 inhalations. This left hand we could now rest palms up in our lap. Every time we silently and mentally recite the verb watch as we feel our chest swell with breath, we could advance our right thumb up the creases and tips of each of our fingers. Let us do this now together as a team, beginning with our right little finger. Having run out of places upon which to touch the tip of my right thumb, that means it's time for me to return my attention to my left hand and advance my left thumb up to its next set of creases. And now you get the basic idea of how we could how we could track 16 sets of 16 inhalations each. Counting 16 inhalations on our right hand takes a little bit more than 1 minute. Counting 16 sets of 16 inhalations each on our left hand takes a little bit more than 20 minutes. When beginning to gather our first collection of 20 minutes, we could rest the first or the lowest knuckle of our right middle finger upon the tip of our left middle finger, palms up in our lap. When beginning to gather our third collection of 20 minutes, we could rest the middle knuckle of our right middle finger upon the tip of our left middle finger, palms up in our lap. When beginning to gather the third collection of 20 minutes, we could rest the higher knuckle of our right middle finger upon the tip of our left middle finger, palms up in our lap. Feel overwhelmed? The antidote is simply repetition. Meditate with me once every 12 hours or so, and within a week or two, you too could master the Buddha's path. Let's keep going. The moment you have a specific question about the philosophies or techniques of Taoism, Buddhism, Tantra, Dzogchen, Zen, or Mahamudra, do not hesitate to type your question in great detail in the chat window, for I tend to check for questions about once every 5 minutes or so. There are plenty of elitists who will insist that we must master the full lotus posture, but the Buddha never taught that. And a cursory examination of the most ancient Buddhist statues depict him not sitting in the full lotus posture, but in merely the quarter lotus posture, wherein the lower legs are stacked like the pieces of bread in a sandwich. If you are interested in sitting this way, remember, treat your knees like a hinge joint. Treat your hips like a ball joint. Do not force your legs together. Even if though your legs might be kind of wonky, just let time do its work. For the test of a sitting posture is not how pretty it looks, but how sustainable it is for the joints, for ankles and knees and hips, and whether or not it enables us to lengthen our spine during each inhalation. In about 10.5 hours, I would very much like to return to lead today's evening lesson, followed by the group practice of meditating like a Jedi. And if you are as geeky as me, may the Force be with you always.